So sometimes consoles get released in the market, and sometimes two consoles get released in the market. And that's where things get messy, because they both obviously want to sell the most, so that's what they try to do through marketing and their game libraries. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. It all started in 1983, where Atari and a bunch of other game consoles figured out, well, if we just pump out a bunch of bad games quickly and cheaply, we can make a profit. So, that's what they did. And to nobody's surprise, the general public didn't like that. So people started to stop buying video games. So then the NES came around and was like, well, we can't market this as a video game console, because people don't like those apparently. So let's market ourselves as a toy. So they sold the NES with a robot called, wait for it, Rob. And it worked. So from then on out, video games were officially a thing again. So no one better to jump on that trend but an up-and-coming company called Sega. So Sega came along and released a console. But we don't talk about that. And by we, I mean anyone outside of my country, Australia, and all of Europe, and also Brazil. So Nintendo hadn't released a 16-bit console yet. Yeah, sure, they were still making bank on the NES, but Sega decided to make a 16-bit console to rival the NES. And it was called the Genesis, because Genesis does what Nintendo. God, that's a good slogan. And it did okay, but Sega needed a mascot. So on the 23rd of June, Sega released a game starring a certain mutated hedgehog to rival Nintendo's now released SNES. So there it started, Mario vs Sonic, Nintendo vs Sega. Kids everywhere fought their fire and stood their ground. Apparently, I don't know, I wasn't born, but I'm guessing it was essentially a battleground. So who won this battle of child death? As I said, I wasn't around, I don't know what happened. The SNES won with almost 50 million sales, way more than the Genesis is, almost 30 million. But things were starting to heat up. The Genesis kept releasing add-ons and consoles they didn't support, all in the efforts to be the most powerful console. But no console had been fully capable of 3D until the Sega Saturn, which was the first 3D console at the price of $399, which they announced at E3, where the PlayStation also then announced their console being $299. Not the proudest day for Sega. The last console to release was the Nintendo 64, the first 3D console capable of 64-bit. But there can only be one winner, so let's look at the loser first. Coming in third, the Sega Saturn with 9.2 million sales. Coming in second is the N64 with 32.9 million sales, which is nothing to sneeze at, but Snowden can sneeze all over the N64 because the PlayStation sold 102 million consoles, which put Sega in hot water at the time because they wasted all their money releasing consoles that just missed. So they had one chance to release a console that was a smash hit, something that would sell tens of millions of copies. The Dreamcast. Yeah, it sold 9 million consoles. Not horrible, actually. Scratch that. Yeah, that's kind of horrible amount of consoles to sell. And it's not like this console had bad games or anything, but it was horribly marketed. And from then on out, Sega just sold games. So after that, the sixth generation officially started with the PlayStation 2, which marketed the fact that it had a DVD player, which worked very well in fact, since the PlayStation 2 sold 152 million consoles, which is kind of bad since the GameCube sold 21 million consoles. But that's not all, since another company decided to enter the console market. Microsoft came in with the Xbox Original, which sold 24 million consoles, which beat Nintendo, which made Nintendo the complete loser of that generation. On to the next generation. PlayStation 3, this system kinda bombed compared to its previous systems. It didn't do bad, but it didn't do great, with 83.8 million consoles sold, which is a crazy big number, and the fact that the PS3 lost this generation of console wars makes that number even more insane. And even though the PS3 lost, they lost by only 200,000 units, which is insanely small compared to their 128 million victory last year. So Xbox's console. The Xbox 360 sold 84 million units, which bumped them just in front of the PS3, and both of these are impressive, but the Wii did amazing due to its brand new motion controls, which appealed to everyone from 3 to 99. The Wii controller can be anything, hell it can be a baby for God's sake. So the Wii sold 101 million copies, which was great for Nintendo, so what do? They try and do it again with the all-new Wii U, which flopped tremendously. You can't just take something you did right and try and do it again, but now your controller has a big screen slap bang in the middle of it. But along with this console being marketed horrible, it's no wonder the Wii U sold 13 million copies. The PS4 came out next with 82.2 million copies sold as of October 2018, making it a relative success. Speaking of relative successes, the Xbox One. So this console had a few problems during its first year. Those problems included privacy issues, region locking, problems blending games, the online necessity, and the lack of exclusives. And surprise, surprise! People didn't love that. So Microsoft went into panic mode trying to fix all of these problems, though the damage had already been done, which definitely affected Microsoft's launch sale, but it didn't affect them in the long haul, since they ended up pulling a pretty decent 39.1 million sales as of October 2018. Although I don't think Microsoft was too happy with those numbers, since they stopped releasing sales numbers in 2015, so that number's just a rough estimate of their sales. Ever wanted to play Mario Kart in a morgue? Well, guess what? Now you can, since back in 2017 Nintendo released a new console called the Nintendo Switch. A hybrid console between a portable device and a not portable device. And it's a bit confusing if this console is a part of the 8th generation or the 9th generation. I mean, the Wii U was definitely part of the 8th generation, but the Switch is currently competing against the 8th generation hardware. I mean, you can't be trans-generation Nintendo, you're already trans-system. As of October 2018, the Nintendo Switch has already sold around 20 million units, which beats the Wii U by a long shot in its first year. And those are all the important systems that have come out over the years, and how they've stacked up against each other. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm going to go argue with an 8-year-old on the internet about why the GameCube was way more powerful than the Xbox One.